piece number 3 is called Abbey Ruins. Now, we live close to the town of Glastonbury where this ruin can be found, and many tourists visit the wonderful site along with other famous things including the Tor, and there will be a piece called Tor Legends that we'll come to later. But Abbey Ruins reminds us of the painful destruction of buildings that occurred during the Middle Ages and the wars and death that occurred. But the piece itself is not overplaying the great dramas. What I've wanted to explore is the sense in which the church, as sometimes very tentative and fragile force, the community of peaceful people still continues through the destructive and at times incredibly terrible vengeance that has occurred. And so, as we'll explore in a moment, the themes pick up on a gentle presence, the timeless presence of the church, and to some extent the slightly more robust hymn-like quality that comes through in the Protestant theme that I have chosen to use. So why call a piece Abbey Ruins? Well, I've always been inspired by Debussy, and so this is not a photograph of the Abbey. This is not a portrait that's going to make you think, right, I'm walking through ruined buildings and so on. It's the emotional journey that occurs when you consider the sweep of history that's represented by these buildings. And I would encourage you to listen to the music and not try to have too strong of visual references, but really to allow your emotions and feelings and imagination to wander around the Somerset countryside, because in the end the stones and the bricks and the mortar may have disappeared in these places where great wars and terrible tribulations have occurred, but still the human spirit continues. This piece is called Abbey Ruins. It's number 3 from Somerset Scenes, and it's a work of great dramatic power, and which uses 2 main themes. The first one is representing plain song or plain chant from fairly ancient times in the Roman Catholic Church. The second theme, which I'll demonstrate in a moment, is a Protestant hymn, a very famous hymn. So the work begins with a series of parallel chords. And these chords are ordinary triads. They're not the 4th chords that I've used in other times. The theme, which relates to the timeless church, to medieval times, which is in the Aeolian mode in C# minor, is stated as follows. There is an actual refrain, or what I call a rejoice section to that tune, which is a great outpouring and a climax to the tune, but you won't hear that until the end of the work, where it appears as a wonderful, triumphal and dramatic section of the music. It's the climax of music, and it's heard in a different key, so we need to hear a little bit more of the theme, and it's heard in the bass as well. And here it comes. To go back to the initial appearance of the chant, the theme that I'm calling the chant, This appears in various disguises and in various treatments. So the initial statement is like a free plain song feeling, and then we set up an ostinato which begins like this, and the chant melody appears over the top of that. That ostinato is actually the theme of the whole work of Somerset Scenes. If you remember from the first piece, we stated the theme for the Fast Autumn Spirits piece. That theme was stated at the time. That's the theme for the entire work, although it's not used self-consciously in every piece. But certainly in this case, the ostinato picks up that general theme to sit underneath the chant. That leads into the next major theme, which I mentioned is a Protestant hymn. It's called Rock of Ages, and I thought it would be good for people watching this video to know something about this piece. So, as anybody would do, of course you would do a Google, and what it tells us is that Rock of Ages is a popular Christian hymn by Reverend Augustus Montague Toplady, written in 1763, and the music is by Thomas Hastings, and it's an experience that Toplady had in an area quite close to here called Burrington Combe. And apparently he was travelling along the gorge, and the gorge in Burrington Combe is not dissimilar to Cheddar Gorge. If you come to this part of the world, you'll certainly want to visit Cheddar. Burrington's far less dramatic. He was travelling along the gorge and took shelter from the weather in this section, which then found its way into the words. Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. The theme of Rock of Ages appears in the left hand somewhat as though you're writing for brass, and so you have a gentle right hand and the tune appearing in the left hand. And then there's a fill-in and the tune continues. That tune leads into a section of great power and drama where I express the destruction of the Abbey by Henry VIII. I express that in a series of parallel thirds, which are again crashing down the piano. So they come down to a big climax, and that is, in a sense, the middle point of the piece where it looks as though the church has been destroyed. I've deliberately situated the plain song, the chant theme, and the Protestant hymn to represent two different forces within the church which have sometimes had great conflicts, been the source of great conflicts, but which still continue to coexist. After the big crash section, we return to another ostinato, and the chant theme continues. And that moves through several different treatments, being treated in the left hand, and then it's continues to be treated in the left hand in a highly dramatic form where the left hand plays arpeggios, and builds into what I have previously described as the culmination, the sort of rejoice section of that theme. And that follows with another statement of Rock of Ages tune with crashing fourth chords, guess I hear those crashing chords as somewhat like bells. That comes to a dramatic end, and there's a final statement of the chant theme very softly, and I'm thinking of the still small voice of the church. No matter what the history and the pressure and the destruction, that there is still that voice, but it's stated in a very strange way, because the original theme, if you remember, is in C sharp minor, the Aeolian mode version of C sharp minor, but I've in fact used a major chord in the left hand with the tune in the right hand. And the opening parallel chords of the introduction are used as the ending. So we hear them again, and they're situated quite low again, probably sense of brass playing. And that brings the work to its climax.